So thank you all for joining us to this next session. And yeah, I think all the issues that the different players in the supply chain run into, from producers, I think up to even consumers who get so confused of now what to have and not to have. That is still, you know, that all that has been highlighted, and we just hope to discuss the solutions that we are kind of proposing and envisioning with you. And we think that the Want to Taste platform is a good kind of gives an idea of what this platform could look like. At the same time, we see that the services are aimed, for instance, at expertise. But I think if we look at the needs of producers, other types of services should be added. And that it should be like the to go-to place, the to go-to shop, the to go-to platform for sustainably sourced natural ingredients. In the case of Want to Taste, it's tastemakers, of course. In the case of Verstegen, it's herbs and spices. And of course, we've been discussing on the medicinal and aromatic plants as a category to add. And I think this type of platform would offer a space, I think, to any type of product. But yeah, I'm really happy we're having this discussion as a kickoff, let's say, to develop this solution. Bert-Jan, happy to see you back, and handing over to you for you to please moderate the Q&A session and the discussion. Thank you. Bert-Jan, you're on mute.
Digital, huh? Adding more caffeine to my system. I'd like to start a little bit with discussing a bit more about blockchain and blockchain solutions, also in relation to the platform. Dorianne has another 10 minutes, I guess. Dorianne, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
There were some questions related to the kind of way you Verstegen is organizing its business with the scope of sustainability, agroforestry systems, and documentation and blockchain. How does that relate to the standards, certifications, as some of the audience members were mentioning? It's costly, it's difficult. Do you help them with these processes? How does that work also in the blockchain as you're using?
Yeah. So about certification, I think when I was talking about certification, I meant sustainability certification, that can be quite confusing. At the same time, we can see that food quality and safety, I think in a sense is a little bit more mature, and it's a bit more clear what the options are and what the requirements are, and it's hard to get around it if you want to serve the EU market. So yeah, with regards to sustainability, I think sometimes it could be a bit hard to quantify exactly what you're doing and what the worth of it is in, you know, these checklists and things like that. So per context, we look what the best approach is, and sometimes it is a certification and sometimes it's not. But in essence, for us, the most important thing is knowing who the farmers are and what their conditions of production and living are. So we've really been looking at what is the best way to map our supply chains and get these insights at farmer level. And then, yeah, I think blockchain for us, you know, there's quite a big hype around blockchain. It's quite a sort of sexy thing, like, oh, but so for us, we're looking, okay, what's the purpose of it for us? When should you use it, and when does it add value, and when can you better choose for something else? So in our case, we're using it to really verify the transactions from farmer to collector to producer to us. Primarily for us to get insight into how many farmers are we dealing with, What is the average amounts they sell in a year? What do they earn? How can we record that they have actually received the premiums that we pay? And in that premium, it's based on quality, but at the same time also a reward for, you know, joining in this data collection, because it is quite intensive. It's new, so they have to be willing to join, and yeah, it's extra work. So we can say, oh, but it's just like verifying a text message. Did you receive this amount for this kilos? Yes. Doesn't sound hard, but it's an extra step. And there's some discipline required also if you want accurate information.
It is an extra step, and it's exactly as you're saying, because I've done a lot of certification preparation exercises. I was also in the board of Fair Wild for wild collected materials, which is another standard, and was a new standard. It's been there for a long time, but if I compare it, because at some point in our company, we developed also a similar system, which we call the check app, which is a kind of system to match all these different documentations that you would require, like traceability. Then you have organic, then you have fair, then you have fair wild, then you have quality standards and quality standards and certifications and all of it. And then you have good agriculture collection practice, which is on the UN base. And all of this together is an enormous amount of work for small volumes and small producers. And it's absolutely, and it's costly, because you are the most important cost factor. You are the important factor when it comes to cost. It's not the producers themselves, because what they produce is rather, with all respect, a bit cheap, the kind of work, and even the rewards are cheap compared to the amount of work they do, and we only do the documentation, and that step is a very costly process, and that makes the products also expensive. And I think, similar to the discussion that we had on, if we do this more collectively with several products at the same time, we could save such an enormous amount of money. And that's possibly also where a company like Ariana was explaining what she's doing in Ethiopia. And we are setting up these systems, but it's very hard, because the sharing of information, like you said, this company internal information, you not easily share that unless you're absolutely sure that you find a partner that will value that information and will treat it respectfully. But maybe also to turn it to another point is, because I can see Joke van der Ven is here from, and maybe from a financier's point and perspective, how do you see it? Do you have to leave, Dorianne? Hello. I think so. Okay. Joke, from a financier's perspective, how do you see this?
Yeah, of course, the small sizes is...
Maybe you introduce yourself first a bit.
Yes. So my name is Joke van der Ven. I'm working for the Triodos Bank. We provide value chain finance for sustainable agri-export from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So the main problem with this particular section of agri-products is, of course, the small size. If you look at the impact investors like us, the ticket sizes where we start from in terms of financing is often around $200,000 to $300,000 finance. So often for the type of suppliers that you talk about, that's quite a high ticket size. So we are increasingly also looking for this platform approach where you combine the small suppliers and the customers to see if we can provide finance there to make it more agile and put more money into those type of channels. So we've seen it so far coming up a lot in coffee and cacao. So we're happy also to hear about the 1-2 platform that Jasper was talking about. I think this is a new form where we look at if the efficiency of doing things online can really replace the personal relationships that Chris was talking about, the personal relationships that you have to invest in with your buyers to make it. Somehow we have to find an in-between stage for these smaller suppliers to get into the arena through a platform, and maybe when they grow bigger, go into a personal relationship. Because I do feel that once a company has a certain size, the platform does not provide enough benefits anymore, but you will go for a direct trading relationship. For us, we are looking for game changers, so we are very interested to hear about these initiatives and see how we can finance. Also the part of the agroforestry approach, there's so much talking, there's so much hype around this item, but to find projects or companies that can be financed to really expand this part, it's not so easy. Maybe that's enough for the financing aspect.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joke. And I think it's important because what you described from a financier's point of view is also for a company's perspective. Like for Verstegen, if you want to invest in such a scheme like agroforestry, you have to be absolutely sure that you get the right qualities, that you get the right volumes, and I do see this potential if we get in mixed cropping systems where you have a variety of products and you can organize that in a different way. With Jasper, I was talking about, well, let's say a bit more disruptive engagement, in a sense that you break away from mono value chains to multi-cropping systems, multi-value chain approaches, where you have a variety of smaller products in one logistical system, because that makes things a lot cheaper. And also from, I think I would expect from a financier's point of view, also more interesting to finance. Maybe also some reflections from the participants, like.
Can I make one comment on that, Bert-Jan?
Yeah.
So I think Joke is highlighting a good point. So when volumes become big, we tell our customers that they graduated, right? Because then they deal directly and not through the platform. It's part of what we do, right? So we are really targeting small and medium-sized enterprise and building up volume for those markets. Yeah, you need to do a lot of targeting, and you need to invest actually in getting that network and that digital network and helping them over the hurdle of digital buying. But COVID has helped in that sense, has helped a lot. There's a lot of reports, and the latest one of McKinsey is showing that 75% of the B2B buyers are willing to spend $500,000 in procurement online, which is huge, obviously. And this is in the B2B environment, obviously. So I think the interesting part is that would be from an export point of view, but there's also a local market point of view, right? And that's also what Chris was highlighting. And from a local market point of view, certainly in Africa and what we see in India, there is an opportunity to move, step over one of the historic steps in where you go to distributors, but you can directly go to the end source. And that way we can, by being a transparent platform, we can also make sure that there's more value for the supplier at the same time.
Thank you, Jasper. Another element that I want to highlight from a financing point of view, Karen, are you still there? When we talk about value-added products like essential oils in South Africa, can you highlight a little bit what is the perspective, Karen?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. What we see in South Africa is that we do need to not sell our medicinal plants in a raw format for maximum job creation, skills development, and profit, that we do need to extract it in the form of a distillation of essential oils or pressing the seeds and selling it off like that. we did have challenges on quality, and that's part of our training program now, is to do some quality control in the whole process. So I was wondering if this forum would also be able to assist in the marketing of that value-adding form of medicinal and aromatic plants in the form of essential oils and then the vegetable oils.
That's a good question. Jasper, maybe you'd like to answer that one?
Yeah, definitely, because in principle, there's limited amount of customers that can extract and that can process the ingredients, as you mentioned, and to create the value in the country would be much better in my eyes than to take it to another country and create the value there. I would definitely do that.
Yeah, Karen, and certainly. It's the next level. Hey? I think in many of the countries we have recently also some projects in Sri Lanka, and the biggest challenge there is moving into value addition rather than selling raw materials, because it makes no sense also from a carbon footprint point of view to sell raw materials. We really have to step up, localize economies, that is value addition in local economies, and add the value there, reduce the volume, reduce the footprint, and then only sell the critical elements of it through a platform like we are discussing here. Because in the end, I from a buyer's point of view, and I think, I forgot now who mentioned it, Dorianne mentioned it, from the point of view of Verstegen, to get the right quality, and also Mike was saying it for a pharmaceutical purpose, to get the right quality of that myrrh. They don't want to buy it from another buyer somewhere in Europe. They want to buy it at source to get the optimal quality for that pharmaceutical purpose. The same for many of these essential oils. And this is where we have to engage and see how we can add value at source. When we talk about multi-cropping systems, it also means how do we optimize values at source and help create jobs, help create income at local. And I think that's also what should be the aim of such a platform, not just to trade, but also to showcase how values are made. Jasper, I'm not...
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. It's a shame to not make the value in at the source. Because actually the margins become in that way, and then looking from a commercial point of view and coming from the business, the margin is mostly made at the end. So to create more value add in the country, and obviously with the right quality, that would definitely be the right way forward.
And I think, Joke, for you as a banker, that should also be an opportunity, right, to invest in value addition.
Yeah, for us, it's a very important theme. We want to move more and more towards investment financing to promote this value addition process. But having said that one, we also know that building up the basis with the farmers takes many years. So we like companies or cooperatives also to be patient and realistic. You first have to really spend several years to build it up before you can do the more complicated part of the value addition. Unless what we often see with companies, if you have a very dedicated buyer, you can kind of leapfrog and go faster. So we very much look for it, but very much evaluate if the company has the capacity to deal with it. But especially in Africa, you see a lot of donor-funded projects, yeah, well, it's like the elephants, no? There's a lot of money put in, and after 5 years, nothing is being produced there. So you have to be careful how to finance it to make it sustainable economically and management-wise too.
I hope that answers your question a bit, Karen.
Yes, thank you very much. That is what I wanted to hear, and thank you for confirming that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe also from Arko Chatterjee. You have established a company in India and in Switzerland, right?
That's right. We are actually headquartered in Switzerland with a wholly owned subsidiary in India. And I've spent several years in the agribusiness, and I completely familiar with the issues that's being discussed, and hence I've set up Natura Yuva to leapfrog these issues and create solutions for the for the farmers who deploy agroforestry models in India and bring them to the market. So in other words, we are the platform that engages directly with the growers and help them go through the several layers of adapting agroforestry and growing medicinal and aromatic plants, and bringing them to the market directly to the buyers, cutting through the middlemen. So I think that's the purpose of Natura Yuva, and so yeah, that's where we are today. Yeah.
Unmute.
Yes.
Suresh, you must be happy to hear that.
Yeah, surely. I see a lot of the interest already ongoing the activities. So we're looking forward to associate with such all players. And I mean it. Actually, the word you're putting is the values to the source, values at the source. This is a key word actually. In terms of economically, environmentally, socially, it's about the values at the source. Thank you.
Also,
yeah, does somebody want? Yes.
Yeah. It's also the value of the buyer. Eh? It's not just talking about investment in land and in quality. The buyer, you have to be more busy with the buying side. We have to do more acquisition. We have to be more specific. When we talk about medicinal and aromatic plants, we worked out a plan to start just with our therapist, complementary therapies. And why? Because you can go together, one-to-one. We export now raw materials from Ghana and Uganda and Nigeria to UK, not to make the profit, but just to make it clear that when you want to be a successful farmer, you have to deal with that kind of buyers. You have to learn to go with them, not just about prices. Just go with the whole thing from farming until using in therapies. And why I say this because when you do about the certification, there's one thing what we have to do also when we want in this specific business. We need to give the phytosanitary certification, but please let the test doing by the buyers. It's too difficult to give indication to farmers how they have to certificate for medicinal use in UK. So that's also a thing that you have to talk over with your buyer. In the processing industries for cosmetic uses, it's easier. They do that. They buy in Nigeria some citrus paradisi, and they send these samples to America, to the United States, to do the test. And when I started a year ago, it was always the same problem. What's the test? How do you certificate? Just bring it with the phytosanitary certification to the buyer, to the industry or to the company or the therapist, and let the process going from there. That's what I want to give as an advice, to make it shorter, to make it more simple to start business for farmers. We don't have to teach the farmers how they grow their indigenous plants. We have to teach the buyers, the therapists. They have to learn to go when they want the best quality. And in West Africa, for example, they have the best quality in all kinds of plants they use for treatments now in the complementary therapies. And it's amazing to see how much plants they are buying now, they are interested in. So give responsibility also to the therapists, also to the buyers. That's my advice.
Okay, thank you, Chris. There's a few questions still. We come back to that bias question again, just in a bit, but maybe also hear the perspective. There's a few people that also want to speak out. There's Atula Prinata, sorry. Are you there?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much given this opportunity. I am from Sri Lanka, so I am representing Lanka Organic Agriculture Movement. Same time, I am South Asia convener for Intercontinental Network of Organic Farm Organization. We are part of IFORM. So we have farmers all over the global who representing the small holding farmers. Especially we are engaging in agroforestry. Especially in Sri Lanka, we have a system called for Candian Forest Garden, and we have developed the analog forestry system, and we have another set of farmers in South Africa, America, and other area. So how we can join with this group? Because if give the market opportunities, and we can organize the farmers where these products can be produced in any part of the world. So we have a link with these all farm organization. I want to know how to connect with this group.
Okay, maybe I can respond quickly. I think what we are talking about is connecting the dots, right? We want to connect the dots, which means at sourcing level, at producer level, and I think that's also why Mr. Suresh is in this meeting. He's working with Solidaridad. So I think at country level, we have to see where are the opportunities and how can we link several of these initiatives to make it more feasible, more economically viable also to invest. That is one. Second is then what Jasper was explaining, if we have a platform also for buyers to work with, then we can link with such buyers. That was also maybe answering a bit to Chris's question. I think it's a critical question because if you don't know at producer level what to produce for a certain buyer, it becomes very difficult. That be if you also want to certify it and what kind of certifications are required. That requires a strong link between the final user, the buyer who puts it in food or cosmetics, to showcase what is needed on the ground to produce. And I think we have to try and see how we can make those connections. In that sense, maybe also, let me see, was another question, maybe also from Tejaswani Herbs, Mr. Rajesh Tiwari. Do you also want to contribute a bit to this subject? If you unmute and can talk. Rajesh, are you there?
Hello everyone, I am there instead of my...
Hello, who's there?
Yes, Tejaswani, you can start with actually. Tejaswani is the daughter of Mr. Rajesh Tiwari. It's the firm, they are dealing on the name of the Tejaswani only. Hi, Tejaswani.
Okay.
Hi everybody, good evening. I'm there on behalf of my father.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yes, please continue with. I just introducing the Tejaswani is a part of the Indian medicinal plant platform. Here, yeah.
And can you tell me your name, please? Because I have here in my script, I have Mr. Rajesh Tiwari, but you are not Mr. Rajesh Tiwari, right?
Yeah, I'm not Mr. Rajesh Tiwari. I am Tejaswani Tiwari.
Okay, the daughter.
Yes, I'm the daughter.
Okay, and please go ahead to explain.
So first of all, we're very glad for this opportunity from Mr. Suresh Motwani and Monique for allowing us to be a part of this and to get us more into this world of medicinal plants. So since my father is not here, I just wanted to know that we are already working with rural and tribal women in terms of medicinal plant development. We are and simultaneously training them in the process of handling delicate medicinal plants because some plant tendencies are different than the others. we now want to establish ourselves in the European export market about the same, because this is a very great opportunity, and we believe in resource buying and providing best of opportunities to Indian farmers, on medicinal farmers, on the livelihood basis, and European market is one of the best in that senses. So we wanted to know what are the parameters to enter the market and what are the certifications required for the same.
Thank you so much. And Suresh, maybe you can answer a part of that question, how to get into European markets. So moving away from local regional markets to export in let's say, Europe and at BioFach, showcasing at BioFach. What are the steps needed, and how can we help with support systems?
Yeah, I can describe our initiatives in the Indian market, what we are doing through formation of this Indian stakeholders platform. So basically what we discussed in the first sessions about the story. So what Tejaswani mentioned, story is there. They are already working with the smallholder farmers, women's groups for collection of these different medicinal spices. Now that this platform need to be, how we are going to be move forward to be connect these the stories to the actual buyers. So I will request Monique, basically she is working on this segment from the European counterpart for the Solidarity for with me. So she may further elaborate. Yeah, Monique?
Yeah, thank you, Suresh. Yeah, that is how we work. I guess Suresh is mainly responsible, for getting things done in the country of origin, and of course I'm based in Europe, so we look at market solutions and market connections. And I think that this debate is all about establishing a platform, a place to go to for suppliers, for producers, for suppliers, where they can find this type of information. So it's not just a matter of, so how can you actually connect to buyers? So the Want to Taste platform that has been presented can be a very good window to offer your product. For now, it's, so we don't know if it's just going to be raw materials or it will be processed materials. That would be great, and even finalized products. But that is all part of the development process that needs to take place. And I think also that it's not just a place to showcase products and for selling. It's also what we envision is that we connect services, supporting services to the platform, not only for buyers, but also for suppliers, for producers. So if you look at the platform, the Want to Taste platform, they now have expertise on quality of tea, for instance. But we can link other services. So we can also link producer support services. We can also link up with the certification bodies. So that is just one click away to connect you to a certification body, which is important for you to access the market. But there's also the services of Profound. Profound is very much expert in helping and working with producers to get them ready for market. So to understand the quality of their produce, to understand what steps need to be taken to qualify, let's say, for European markets. So also Profound, I think, would be a very good service provider to the platform. And Solidaridad to work with farmers in source. That is a bit of the thinking that we have. So hopefully that is like when we look to develop this platform for medicinal and aromatic plants, or the broader category of natural ingredients, that for me would be the way forward, to start not inventing it all ourselves and doing it all ourselves, but to see what is already in place and bring it together in the platform so that it becomes easy for both buyers and suppliers, to find an answer to the questions they have. So when it's from the buyer, where can I find a sustainably sourced product? They go to the platform and then hopefully they can find you here, for instance, Tejaswani, Tiwari. So that they can find your product there. And from your perspective, if you are interested in getting on that platform, then also what is required for me to be interesting for a buyer and to comply with all these requirements. And if you're not there yet, so what services do I need? And hopefully you will be able to find all these services on the platform, or that we have the ability to connect you with relevant players that can help you get you where you want. And there's one other aspect, because which we did not touch upon, but what I really think strong of the platform, the Want to Taste platform, is the fact that there's an Indian store and there's a European store. And I think it's so important that, I think also the local, the national, the regional markets can be very interesting and promising for many producers. So to export to Europe means a lot of investment. It's a lot of hurdles to get your product to the market. And I think it's often maybe easier to export it or to sell it even in your own country. And if also the platform can serve to connect you nationally and regionally with interested buyers, and then of course other requirements will be there. And now it's India, it's Europe, but I think the sky is the limit. It would be great, to have like national stores and to enable the participants in the platform to broaden that scope. And in the end, it's a matter for producers, to sell their product well and to help them produce it sustainably and be able to supply it also to buyers interested in sustainable produce.
Okay. Thank you, Monique. I think that also answers part of the question that Dr. Jarial was mentioning. He wanted to highlight some of the initiatives that Solidaridad is promoting in sustainability. But maybe also a response to Mrs. Tiwari is that what is important is ultimately is the business case. So what we want to put on the platform is what is a business case. It means you have the right product, the right volume, the right qualities, the right pricing. And this issue of scale, and I think that's also what Monique is pointing to. If you could start at local and regional market to build up the critical volume and quality that is needed to enter markets, higher end markets, like nowadays in India, and we do the same in Sri Lanka, for instance, where we set up companies with spa concepts in the hotel businesses in the countries, for instance, for cosmetic ingredients, or in the food industry, in hotels, in restaurants, to move up the ladder in higher quality and the critical volumes, and only then moving also to international markets. So it's also a graduation process, as Jasper was describing before. That is one. Related to that, because I saw that Yoko was asking, is access to finance going to be part of our platform? And I think that's a very interesting not a question for me, because I have another hat. If I put my other hat up of microfinance, rural finance, for sure, access to finance is a critical factor when we talk about investments in value addition, investments in setting up the critical, let's say, sustainability scenario, the certification issues, to invest in quality, the right equipment for post-harvest treatment, and all of this requires also an investment step by step for smaller producers. So I think, and that is, I think, the particular role also of Solidaridad, to move into bankable production systems with the small producers, to create small enterprises. And I think that also relates a bit to what Ariana Yuen was describing, the company she's setting up in Ethiopia with these producer systems in agroforestry context, for instance. That's the type of entrepreneurs that can be the link to international markets as well, to create critical volume and qualities. I'm not sure if you still want to add there, Ariana Yuen, or are you still there? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. And do you also see that as your role? And then when it comes to access to finance, would that be critical for you as well?
Yeah, I think so. And I think part of that might just be the banking sector specific to Ethiopia, where in order to access loans, you have to present like 100% collateral. So I definitely think trade financing is a part of that puzzle.
Yeah, yeah. And that is important to distinguish all these factors, because I'm also sometimes doing work for RVO, which is our Dutch ministry for good finance practice. And it's always this distinction between investment finance, trade finance, getting the right types of finance. Maybe Joke, you can highlight a bit more on that one. But to get to a right financing model is still, that's a different business. And I think that's also important for our platform, is to get to the right financing models, because that's critical to the business. Joke, you want to share some more on that one?
Yeah, and it's so diverse, this question. It's a big topic. For example, in Ethiopia, the international impact investors cannot provide trade finance and only long-term investment loans. And well, from a financer perspective, you would like to start with some short-term type of finance to get to know the company and build up a track record. And then after 1 year, look at more type of investment plans. So it's a continuous struggle to match. But the most important thing is that there's enough matchmaking, and that the financiers can talk to all the different companies which are out there with a need. So, and that's the nice thing of COVID, that with these platforms and everything doing online, I would say the barriers are getting smaller, and everybody feels freer to just reach out to the financiers with their question.
Thank you, Joke. Maybe from a Kenyan perspective, I saw there's some participants from Kenya. Let me see. Is there anyone out there that wants to speak out from Kenya?
Bert-Jan, if I may,
Yes,
you mentioned the business case for farmers, and Dr. Cheruiyot, I would like to hear from you, because you've been working in this sector with collectors and of medicinal and aromatic plants for a long time, several decades. And I would like to hear from you what you think is needed to really build a good business case for collectors and smallholder farmers on the basis of medicinal and aromatic plants.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Cheruiyot, and working with Solidaire. For the last 2 years, we are in this line in a very aggressive way. That way, we are taking this area of medicinal plants promotion in 3 ways. One is the awareness creation, for which we are working with the household ladies and school children and all those people. Then we are working with forest people and promoting that good collection practices. Since more than 85% of the medicinal plants which we are using or is being traded in the country is coming from the forest, so that is one of the areas which need to be promoted in a big way. So we have started working with a number of societies operating in different forest areas. So we are teaching them the good collection practices of some of the plants which are in high demand. And third is the good agriculture practices, for which we are promoting we are working with the farmers who are into the cultivation of different medicinal plants. And the way we have taken the awareness campaign, and that is now have started giving its results. We have made a forum of stakeholders. That includes farmers, that includes purchasers, that includes processors, that includes teachers, that includes consultants, and many others. So this is how we are doing it. Now, as far as the market of this particular this produce is concerned, as Monique has already pointed out, that to start with, we have to cater to the indigenous needs first. Then we have to think of the exports and other things. Because that requires a lot of hurdles. That has got a hurdles also. Plus, that needs a lot of backing also. So now we have started forming farmers producers organizations. At 3-4 places we are proposing with those farmer producer organizations, and those farmers who are producing almost same type of medicinal plants. For example, Vidania somnifera. Some of the farmers a number of farmers are producing Vidania somnifera in their fields. So we are teaching them the good agriculture practices, good harvesting practices, how to dry it properly, and then primary processing, sorting type of things, and then ultimately to link them with the market. So shortly, when this particular commodity will be in a good quantity with us, then we will be trying to tap the or getting connected with the export market or with the foreign buyers. So far, all these things are being sold in the local markets, in the sense in the agriculture produce mandis, what we call is committees or centers, and nicely people are getting good this thing, especially after this COVID. People have earned a lot out of these commodities, and now since we are forming those farmer producer organizations, I am very hopeful that within very short time, we will be able to tap up or have connections with the overseas markets also. So this is how we are going. To start with, it is good collection practices, good agricultural practices, the awareness campaign, formation of farmer producer organizations, and then connecting them to the good purchases.
Yeah. So the main motivator for farmers to move towards more these good practices is the price.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Earlier, madam, nobody was doing the sorting business. They were not grading the things. Now they have started grading the things, and now they are getting naturally, automatically, they are getting good money for their.
Yeah. So they see that if they move towards good practices, that they are rewarded for that effort.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They are convinced now. They are convinced.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to also try and see, and
Bert-Jan, there's one person who's waiting for a long time, I think already. I think that's Dr. Radhakrishnan. He asked the question in the earlier meeting.
Yeah,
and
but
I promised to respond him directly, but I'm not sure if he still maybe he wants to have a little time to.
Yeah, because it's just that it's also critical that we get, because it's under the Africa Pavilion, that we also get some participants from Africa. So, all right, go ahead, Doctor.
Sir, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Myself is Dr. Radhakrishnan. I am senior scientist from the Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanic and Research Institute, one of the biggest gardens in Asia. And for the last 5 years, I was working on deputation as the Chief Executive Officer of State Medicinal Plants Board Kerala. I want to share some of my thoughts with you. And that's why I have given on the cultivation, but we have to go to the basic. Theory won't act, but we have to go to the application level, which we have successfully done in a Grama Panchayat in Thrissur district of Kerala. That's very important. We have made a MOU, that is a buyback arrangement, a MOU with industries, a farmer society, and the State Medicinal Plants Board. The board is a facilitator, and we have fixed a fair price for them, MOU for 5 years. So what happens is that the farmers won't get the required price for them. So now they have, on the basis of an MOU, we have acted, and it is going on very successfully. You can look at the site, Matathur Labour Cooperative Society, MLCS. They have got a website. You can go and look at it and see how they are working on. They have got a very good profit for the cultivation of medicinal plants. And now this is taken as a model by the National Medicinal Plants Board, under which SMBB comes. So this should be there. Otherwise, farmers will cultivate anything and nobody is there to take it. But here, the importance is that selective cultivation in large scales, only the medicinal plants required for the industries is cultivated. So that's a very, and it was successfully done. This is a simple thing. We don't like to think, no, these are very simple things. And I am happy that I am a partner to that one. So I request you all to share their view, and they are ready to give you any medicinal plants, but under the rules applicable to India. So please, this is the main point. I think this is the application level. This is the farmers has to get. Now there are more and more farmers are turning towards it. farmers clusters. We are forming farmers clusters, and then they are cultivating. And in last scale, you know that Kerala is a state in India where it is very high density population and very less land area. So this is a great model. And we have done so many things also.
Thank you. I must cut you short there, Doctor, because the time is running out. I think it's one. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Emulate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Bert-Jan, you were talking about the importance for Africa, and I think it's very crucial that you say that.
Like to get the perspective of Anastacia Cheruiyot. Yeah. Are you still there?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
That is great. Yes, I'm Anastacia from Kenya. We have a very young organization that we are growing indigenous edible plants, and therefore that is a combination of course, vegetables, medicinal plants. The key for us is that they are indigenous to Kenya. And as a young organization, we have actually been targeting the local markets because that's where it still makes sense to us. And only recently we have actually received or connected with one buyer from America. And so, yes, we are very young. I am excited to hear all the solutions that are being spoken about here and the possibilities. And as a young organization that is just starting to set up in this field and in this sector, I'm excited to hear the things that are possibly things that we can adapt from a Kenyan perspective. Of course, there are very many challenges at the moment. So we work mainly with women who are the main producers of those indigenous plants. And of course, we work, a lot of the indigenous plants are not yet also fully domesticated. So some of them are still forest, almost like forest products that, as we were talking in the earlier discussion about sourcing, sustainable sourcing, responsible environmental ways in which we can actually do that sourcing of those products. But more and more, we are actually able to then move into some of the women being able to actually plant some of those and just kind of like early domestication, creating personal seed banks to be able to produce that stuff.
Anastacia, can I ask you, what is the product that you want to sell to the United States?
We actually have received a buyer who wants some baobab, African baobab powder. Okay. We have, they want amaranth powder, which is something that we can, the African amaranth powder. Some of the products are also kind of vegetable-based powders that are indigenous to Kenya. And so that it's a list of about 5 products, mostly vegetable-based.
And so you're doing value addition as well, because you're making into powders.
Yes, so that is right. I know that there was a discussion about value addition. So yes, we are doing the powdering here. So as Joke was speaking, yeah. There's a great need, of course, for investment, capital for actually the creating the dryers and whatever we need to actually dry the product, powder the product, and have it in a high quality way that it can be then moved from here to the buyer.
Okay, maybe I can. Maybe I can give you a link. There's a colleague in this forum. His name is Ruben Omega. We have a setup in Kenya that's called Green Rhino. You might link up with him. We are working on developing nettle as well for a company in Germany. Stinging nettle. But what you mentioned, right. Are you part of the Baobab Alliance? Are you aware of the Baobab Alliance?
No, Africa? I'm not, but I would. Yes, I'm not aware of them, but I will link up with them. Yes, stinging nettle is one of our products. It's a very beautiful tea that you can make out of it. So yes, we actually are open to producing nettle. We actually have good sources, and we have some women who are doing a lot of that.
Can I ask you, Anastacia, and also I think Septi,
yes, ma'am.
Because you were talking about for now you're selling to local market, you're exploring exports, but now we have the inter-Africa trade agreement, which I think will open up a lot of opportunities for regional trade. And I know that Mr. Septi, he's from a company called Asiba, and they will have an opportunity to host a pavilion for natural ingredients at the upcoming Inter-Africa Trade Fair, to which Profound and Solidaridad and NBI also seek to contribute, and also discuss the same type of discussion we have now with African players. If you look at how the population in Africa will grow, how the markets there will grow, and then at the demand for natural ingredients, medicinal and aromatic plants, which still form an important part of your national health, of your healthcare systems, traditional healthcare systems, which are being more strongly promoted. What opportunities do you see there for Africa?
Well, the opportunities are huge. I mean, imagine now that with the African Continental Free Trade Area, suddenly a population of about 1.3 billion, that is like the new market now, and that has opened up to literally every African organization and every African producer. And of course, yes, you're right, there's still a strong utilization of medicinal products within the African continent. But I think missing link is what we are discussing today, is finding who's the producer and who's the buyer, and where do we link? Where do we come together to know that if I go to this platform, I will possibly find people who are demanding my products, just as much as the buyer will also find the people who are producing the products that they want to use. And I think that's the link that is very interesting for me in this discussion today, and finding that place where, yes, we have the African to Europe, African to America, and of course, or producer to Europe, producer to America, but also the possibilities of just the regional market and regional trade that can happen within this specific area of medicinal and aromatic plants.
So Jasper, you hear this?
Yeah, I completely agree. By the way, we will soon have some baobab also in our platform, and I can tell you that we're already sampling quite a lot of the baobab. It works very well in jam, I can tell you. But for sure, I agree to first look at the local market and explore that to the max. And then look into exports, and one of the things that could be a very interesting thought as well is the whole idea of collating different ingredients and making shipments in that way more efficient into Europe and into other markets. I think that there's a limited risk, and I can tell you that we actually do the same thing in a different way in India. We have a Dutch supplier that wanted to enter into the Indian market, so we organize their warehousing, but we work with the stocks on a consignment base, so we pay them once they're sold. But that's a little bit the process that we're following today in how to enable different suppliers from different regions into new markets. Digital is a perception of digital is that you're being supplied pretty fast, right? So if you need to wait for endless supply chains, that's going to be quite an obstacle. It's not impossible because it's still B2B and expectations are for longer lead times, but there is, with digital, there is a perception that you can supply relatively fast.
Yeah, and again, maybe to reiterate again, also that it will require the business case in the end, because even if digital offers solutions, the business case has to be relatively clear, and that's, you heard that also from the financiers point of view, the Triodos Bank. If you take that into into your mind as, okay, I need a bankable proposition, not just to get investment, but also to sell to a buyer, because the buyer will have similar questions as a bank would ask you: the critical volumes, the critical pricing, investments needed to get to the right quality, all these typical questions. But I think for such a platform, this is exactly what we have in mind, is to make these linkages visible, to explore potential for building up, and to explore how to help best to get to good business solutions. I think that is what we have in mind. So
yeah,
I'm looking.
You can produce a lot, but if you cannot sell it, then it's useless,
Sure.
right?
And maybe to go back to Chris
right.
as well. Chris had that same critical question: where are these buyers? And of course, we do a lot of work also in the biofach, finding the right buyers. But it's matchmaking. That is critical. Chris, you're muted, Chris.
It's also very interesting to know why they want to not to buy the powder, but just the raw materials. Is something about trust. You can control better the raw materials than you can control the powder. It's a total process you have to be involved in. About the local market, the integration of the traditional medicine is going fast to the national health organizations. In Ghana, you see that. So local market is more important. But one thing is for sure: when you have an export program, you have more. You are more than when you just are selling from farmer to little shop in your own country. The export programs are also to get a proof that your plants, your medicinal plants are okay, are good, are ready to go for markets. What we see in the processes is that the price is the last thing they ask. They ask for quality, they ask for testing. And now this project is going on now, this cola nitida. They ask for the samples. Due to COVID, it's still in Nigeria, but they want to buy 40,000 kilo a year of that kind of nut. So they didn't ask me for a price. They just asked me the samples, let me do the test, and let them wait. That's the thing. And at the end, they won't discuss the price. But first what they want to know the quality and where it comes from. Is it the indigenous? Which farmers are selling this? Which collectors are involved? That are the questions. And we have to be more busy with that kind of things. The sustainability is not only the farmer, it's also it's the whole chain. And it starts from, in my point of view, with the buyer. And he has to be convinced that he has to do sustainable business, and of course there is a price, and of course there's competition. But when the first question is what is the price, we stop with communication. It's no sense. Okay. That's the difference with Verstegen. They buy herbs, common herbs. It's always competition. You can do it better than aroma, but it's always a price discussion. It's all the price competition, and that's a different thing with doing business with process, with industries, and with the therapists. There's a big difference, and there's more money to make for farmers when you go in that business.
Thank you, Chris. And maybe these are good concluding remarks, because also Jasper was asking, because I think we can continue talking for days. And I think it's good. We are slightly over our time of 1 hour for this particular discussion. Maybe to get maybe to conclude at some point here, unless there are very urgent questions still. But if you still have urgent questions, please put them in the chat so we can still answer. Otherwise, I think maybe it's good to get to some conclusion of the 2 meetings. So I think it was a very rich discussion. What I take back home is that there is certainly a function for such a platform to link buyers. And as Chris was explaining in his final words, is where are these buyers, and can we make the buyers work for the system? That's also why we started this dialogue. What are the market solutions for getting this business better organized, a bit more transparent, a bit more, not a bit more, but a lot more sustainable, in a sense, aggregating volume, critical volume on the ground, crop diversification, how can we work with different crops at the same time? I think we are heading towards new partnerships, as well as with producers like Solidaridad is explaining on the ground, but also at platform level where we are engaging with Jasper to see, can we engage better in the system to work on collaborations that will get us critical volume, a diversity of products, and a diversity of products at the right pricing, because in the end, our aim is that we improve the negotiating position of the producers on the ground. That is in a fair pricing, that is in a sustainable system that they have in the agroforestry concept. And in that sense, the ambition of Verstegen is not different from the ambition of Solidaridad or the ambition of many of these small SMEs, like also Anastacia was explaining for Kenya, young entrepreneurs. We would like to see these young entrepreneurs engaging in this business, but with an idea that it can be sustainable, that they help their local population, that we engage with local markets, but in particular also with international markets, and find this balance of information, whether that be production qualities, certification systems or not. And as Joko was explaining also from a bankable point of view, to get the right investments for the right value addition. And I think that for me was the richness of this discussion. And we will certainly continue discussing with Want to Taste, with Chris, with MBI, with Solidaridad to see how we can forge this kind of partnerships and also get some fundings and financing. Because when I hear somebody like from India or from Kenya talk about the business propositions that they have in mind or could offer, then we have to engage and see how we can make that real. I think that's our next task. Chris, Monique, Jasper, want to add something?
Time for the coffee.
Well, thank you very much for organizing this. I think it's been fruitful, and I think the feedback of the audience was quite active, and I think we need to thank them as well for their active participation. So thanks for that.
Thank you so much, all of you, and I really hope next year, because just to as a small teaser for you, while we were talking, the postman brought me something from my team in the office. They sent apple pie. So my next challenge is that I will finish this shortly, but also to celebrate this rich discussion. And I'm really looking forward to next year that we can meet physical and that we can have a cup of coffee together, a cup of tea together, and chat more. And I think we've talked now for almost 2.5 hours. It shows that there's a lot to talk about. I thank the audience, I thank all the participants, and I thank my panelists. It was a great discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Look forward to the continuation. Thanks. And let's keep in touch, and we will keep you all posted on development.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy BioFarm.